What if I told you that the difference between the most frustrating round of your life and striking the golf ball like a tour professional comes down to a margin of just 8 inches?
I mean, honestly, it sounds impossible. When you watch a high-level player on TV, the swing looks massive, you know? It looks like they're pulling their hands a mile behind them to generate all that power.
Right, but the 3D kinematic data tells a completely different story. Most amateurs are pulling their arms into the next zip code, and in the process, uh, destroying their ability to ever find the sweet spot.
Yeah, they're totally wrecking their geometry.
Welcome to today's deep dive. You are joining two experienced PGA professionals and sports scientists, and our mission today is to demystify the ultimate secret of the elite ball striker. We're looking at exactly how the body, the arms, and the wrists must work together to, consistently find the center of that club face.
And to do this, we are pulling from just an incredible stack of research. We've got the biomechanical data of Dr. Sasha McKenzie, 3D kinematic studies from Athletic Motion Golf, and a massive analysis of over 1 million golf swings from Hack Motion.
Wow, over 1 million swings.
Yeah.
Plus, we're bringing in practical coaching insights from the Striper Golf and Golf Smart Academy archives.
Which I know is a lot of really dense material. But the goal here is not to give you a master's degree in biomechanics. The goal is to translate these numbers into a practical understanding that will, actually lower
Conversation today around a villain. And that villain is the human instinct to violently hit at the golf ball from the top of the swing.
Oh, absolutely. That instinct ruins so many rounds.
To defeat it, we really have to start with the geometry of the sweet spot itself. Because when you experience that jarring, weak, vibrating heel or toe strike, what you're fundamentally experiencing is a failure to maintain your swing radius.
Right. So what is actually happening in space when the strike drifts? To understand that, you have to picture the club head moving through space like a pendulum attached to your chest. Let's break down the heel strike first.
Okay, let's do it.
If you hit it on the heel, so the part of the club face closest to the shaft, it means the center of the club head is physically further away from your body at impact than it was when you addressed the ball. The most common cause here is a biomechanical flaw called early extension.
Let's translate that for a second. Early extension. I mean, that's really just a fancy term for when your hips basically panic, right?
Yeah, that is a perfect way to describe it. Your hips panic because your brain senses a loss of balance or a lack of space. So the pelvis thrusts straight forward toward the ball on the downswing.
Instead of rotating back and out of the way.
Exactly.
Oh.
And because your arms are attached to your body, that forward thrust pushes your hands and therefore the club out and away from you. The entire radius shifts outward, and suddenly the heel of the club is lined up with the golf ball.
That makes so much sense.
You'll also see this exact same outward shift if your weight falls too heavily onto your toes during the swing. You're just falling toward the ball.
And a toe strike is essentially the inverse of that failing geometry, right?
It is, yeah. Hitting it on the toe means the club head has crimped closer to your body at impact. This happens when you lose your posture by lifting your chest and pulling your head up and away from the ground.
So your brain knows you're moving away from the ball, and your arms naturally pull inward to compensate.
Right, which drastically shortens your swing radius. You'll also see toe strikes if a golfer's weight falls back onto their heels, or if they have an out-to-in swing path accompanied by a chicken wing.
The dreaded chicken wing.
Yeah, where that lead elbow just pulls up and tight to the ribs right through impact. It just yanks the club head inward.
Okay, wait, I have to push back here, though. Because I see guys on the range all the time whose hips stay back, like their spine angle looks textbook, they aren't early extending, but they are still clanking it off the heel of the club.
Yeah, that definitely happens.
So if their posture is good and their hips aren't panicking, why is the geometry still failing?
Well, it's a great observation, and it really highlights why posture alone isn't enough. In those cases, the body is doing the right thing, but the handle of the club is racing outward, completely independent of the body.
Oh, interesting. Why does that happen?
The root cause usually happens before they even start the swing. A lot of players set up just a touch too far away from the ball at address. They're reaching for it with tense arms.
So they've compromised their radius before the club even moves.
Yes. To guarantee center contact, you have to establish a true arm hang distance at setup. Your upper arm should rest softly against your chest, and your hands should hang naturally from your shoulders without reaching.
Like an athletic balance.
Exactly. Weight in the middle of your feet, feeling grounded and stable, almost like a shortstop getting ready to field a ground ball. If you start out of balance and reaching, your brain spends the entire 1.5 seconds of the golf swing trying to find stability.
Which completely ruins your ability to deliver the sweet spot.
100%. It's a lost cause from the start.
Setup is the foundation, but it really is just the preamble. The real battle against our instinct to hit at the ball happens in the transition. We have to talk about shallow.
Oh, yeah. Arguably the biggest buzzword in modern golf instruction.
The buzzword, sure, but it's backed by overwhelming science. If we look at the data from biomechanist Dr. Sasha McKenzie, he found that 39 out of 40 touring professionals exhibit club shallowing during the transition from the backswing to the downswing.
39 out of 40. That is just staggering.
I mean, in a sport where every swing looks a little different, finding a metric shared by 97% of the best players in the world is as close to a universal fundamental as you will ever find.
It's undeniable, and the biomechanics explain why. Shallowing is essential because it gets the center of mass of the golf club under the hand path.
Let's unpack center of mass for a second so you, the listener, can really picture this. A golf club isn't balanced, right? All the weight is at the very end of a long stick.
Right, the heavy club head.
Exactly. So if that heavy club head gets thrown over and outside your hands, which is what happens when you cast the club from the top, it wants to twist the face open, you are fighting the physics of the tool.
But when you shallow the club, that heavy mass drops slightly behind and beneath your hands. When the weight is tracking under the hand path, physics takes over.
So it actually helps you.
Immensely.
Yeah.
Centrifugal force naturally wants to line the club head up with the shaft, which makes it incredibly easy to square the face at impact. It allows for a highly efficient transfer of energy without requiring you to make last-second, desperate hand manipulations.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because you hear the word shallow or the phrase drop the arms, and it's so easy to interpret that literally.
Oh, people do it all the time.
Right. You get to the top of the swing, and you pull your hands straight down toward your toes, thinking you are shallowing the club.
That is the drop myth. It might be the most destructive misconception in modern golf instruction.
Wait, really? The most destructive?
Easily. If you take your hand from the top of the swing and pull them straight down vertically, the shaft of the club actually tips upward. It steepens. You end up with your hands dropping, but the club head is pointing straight up at the sky.
It's like holding a heavy suitcase by the handle. If you violently yank the handle straight down, the bottom of the suitcase tips up.
That is a brilliant way to visualize the physics. What elite players are actually doing is very different. If you study Ben Hogan or Mo Norman, players renowned for their generational ball striking their arms do not simply plunge downward.
What do they do instead?
Their arms actually work across their body in transition. Relative to their chest, their hands stay at nearly the same height for a fleeting moment as the transition begins.
Across the chest. So their hands are actually staying relatively high.
Yes. The arms work more around them as the torso begins unwinding. It's the specific arm structure, maintaining its relationship with the chest, that allows the club head to naturally fall behind them and shallow out.
So the hands move out slightly as the body turns, and the heavy shaft just lays down behind them.
Exactly. Let's bring this back to that mind-blowing statistic you mentioned at the very beginning. The 8 inches.
Yes. The Athletic Motion Golf 3D data on hand depth completely changes how you should view the backswing. They track the tour average for hand movement.
And what did they find?
From where your hands start at address to where they end up at the very top of the swing. They only move 8 inches back in depth.
Just 8 inches of inward movement away from the target line. It's nothing. It barely feels like you've moved your arms.
So why do amateurs constantly try to pull their hands 24 inches behind them?
It comes back to the illusion of power. Amateurs think power comes from how far back they can pull their hands. They detach their arms from their chest and reach as far behind their back as possible.
Which just causes problems.
Right. True power comes from thoracic rotation, the coil of your body. When you just pull your arms back independently, you get disconnected. Your hands get stuck way behind your body.
And because your hands are stuck in the next zip code, you panic. You realize you have a fraction of a second to get the club back to the ball. So you make what is arguably the worst downswing error possible. You try to spear the ball.
Ugh, the spearing motion. It is toxic.
It really is.
Teaching golfers to aggressively drive their hands and trail elbow forward at the ball is easily one of the worst pieces of advice you can find on the internet.
You see people violently thrusting their hands forward right from the top of the swing, almost like they are throwing a javelin at the turf.
And doing that completely ruins your geometry and your sequence. In a high-level swing, there is a very specific flow. You have your compact 8 inches of depth at the top.
Right.
As you start the downswing and your hips re-square to the golf ball, your trail hand should naturally arrive at about the height where you would tie your shoes. That is only about 4 inches of downward travel from the top.
4 inches, so your hands have barely dropped and your hips are already square to the ball.
Correct. And here's the critical checkpoint. At that moment, when the club is halfway down, your upper trail arm should be matching the line of your body.
Like aligned with the side seam of your shirt.
Exactly. It should not be violently driven forward or trapped in front of your chest. The rotation of your torso is what brings the arms down and around. The arms are not thrusting themselves independently at the ball.
Okay, I'm tracking with the physics here, but let's be honest. If I go out to the driving range right now, knowing I shouldn't spear the ball, but I still try to actively shallow the club while rotating, I'm going to dig a trench.
Yeah, it's a tough move to just force.
It is a really difficult physical sensation to grasp. How do you get the club to fall behind you without forcing it?
Well, this is where you have to understand momentum. The golf club has weight. When you reach the top of the swing and change directions, the club's weight and momentum desperately want to make it fall backward and shallow out on its own.
Oh, so it wants to drop.
Right. I know we've got an analogy from the sources about a football blocker, which I love.
Oh, the football blocker analogy. Yeah, so if a blocker drives into your arm, you naturally push back to resist them.
Yeah.
Right? But their momentum still moves you backward initially.
Yes. The club wants to fall in transition due to its weight and momentum. The golfer's job isn't to violently yank it down or throw it at the ball. Your job is to gently resist the fall.
Like resisting the blocker.
Exactly. This subtle resistance gives the pivot time to organize the downswing naturally. You apply a subtle opposing force in your hands, just enough to manage the weight.
So the club is falling backward, but you're putting the brakes on just a tiny bit to stay in control.
Yes. And that subtle resistance does something magical for your sequence. It buys you time. It allows the shallowing to happen smoothly in rhythm with your body rotation, rather than as an isolated, jerky manipulation of the hands.
Okay, so we've absorbed the blocker. We resisted the fall. Our path is beautiful. The club is tracking perfectly under our hands. But what does this all mean if our club face is wide open at impact?
Yeah, that's the nightmare scenario.
Because you can have the most biomechanically perfect swing path in the world, but if the face is pointing to the right trees, the ball is going to the right trees.
Which brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, wrist mechanics. This is often the missing link for amateur players who feel like they are doing everything else right.
And we have great data on this now.
We do. Thanks to Hack Motion's analysis of over 1 million golf swings, the mystery of how elite wrists operate is completely solved. There are 3 main movements: extension and flexion, radial and ulnar deviation, and pronation and supination.
Let's cut through the medical jargon for a second, because the sources are very clear that there's one absolute heavy hitter here when it comes to controlling the club face, and that is extension and flexion.
Absolutely.
Let's define those so you can picture it. Extension is cupping your lead wrist like you are revving a motorcycle backward. Flexion is bowing your lead wrist, curling your knuckles downward. Why is cupping the wrist such a swing killer?
Because extension or cupping does 2 terrible things simultaneously. First, it opens the club face relative to the path. Second, it adds dynamic loft to the club.
Oh, so you're hitting a weak high shot.
Exactly. If you struggle with a weak slice that balloons into the air and falls short and right, the data proves that the #1 cause is adding unnecessary cupping in the backswing and then failing to move into flexion or bowing during the downswing.
So amateurs are rolling their wrists open, cupping that lead hand, and essentially waving the club face at the sky.
Precisely. More extension opens the face and drastically delays your ability to square it up. Elite players do the exact opposite.
They keep it flat, right?
They maintain a stable, relatively flat lead wrist at the top of the swing. Then, as they move into the downswing and resist the fall of the club, they actively add flexion. They bow that lead wrist.
And that squares it up.
It squares the club face early in the downswing, which means they can just aggressively rotate their body through impact without ever worrying about having to flip their hands to save the shot.
I understand the science. We've covered the geometry of the setup, the 39 out of 40 shallowing data, the 8 inches of hand depth, and the necessity of wrist flexion.
It's a lot of pieces.
It is. If you tell me to go resist the fall of the club while bowing my lead wrist, my brain is going to short circuit on the first tee. How do you actually practice this without overloading your nervous system? What are the practical steps?
The sources give us a fantastic, clear progression. It starts with a diagnostic tool, the checkpoint test from Golf Smart Academy. You need to gather actual evidence of your swing, not just guess based on feel.
So film your swing from a face-on angle.
Right. Just prop your phone against a golf bag, pointing directly at your chest. Now, scroll through the video and pause it when the club shaft is parallel to the ground on the downswing. Look at where the club head is relative to your hands.
Okay, got it.
Then let the video play and pause it again when the shaft is parallel to the ground on your follow-through.
What exactly are we looking for in those two freeze frames? You are looking at the path of the club head. If the club head is inside your hands on the downswing, meaning closer to your body, and then exits outside your hands on the follow-through, you have an in-to-out path.
Which means a draw bias.
Right, a heavy draw or hook bias. Conversely, if the club head is outside your hands early and pulls inside late on the follow-through, you have an out-to-in path. You have a slice or fade bias. It is an instant, objective, visual diagnosis.
That is incredibly practical. It takes the guesswork out.
Yeah.
But what about fixing that open club face we talked about? How do you practice bowing the wrist without thinking about it mid-swing?
For that, you use the motorcycle drill. Grip the golf club with your lead hand. Take the club to the top, and as you start your downswing and reach that parallel checkpoint we just talked about, practice revving the engine toward the ground.
So you're feeling your knuckles actively turn down toward the dirt.
Yes, you are actively bowing the wrist, moving into flexion. Doing this as a slow, continuous rehearsal trains the exact neurological pathway needed to present a square, compressed club face at impact. So just do it slowly until it sticks.
Exactly. Do it slowly until the feeling becomes second nature.
And finally, to tie this entire deep dive back to our opening topic, finding the absolute center of the sweet spot, we have the gate drill and foot spray.
Oh, these are the ultimate truth tellers of golf instruction. Place a tee just outside the toe of your club at address, and another tee just inside the heel.
Creating a narrow physical gate for the club to pass through.
Right. Then spray the club face with a thin layer of aerosol foot powder spray and hit shots. Your only conscious goal is to swing through the gate without disturbing the tees.
The genius of the foot spray is that it gives you instant, undeniable evidence of exactly where the ball met the metal. You cannot argue with a white smudge on the heel.
No, you really can't.
It forces you to self-organize. You have to maintain your balance, your arm hang, and your radius, or else you hit a tee and the spray exposes the miss hit.
It's the best feedback loop you can ask for.
So to synthesize this entire journey we've been on, defeating the instinct to hit at the ball and building the ultimate ball striking motion starts with a centered, naturally hanging setup.
Absolutely.
It requires a compact 8-inch depth in the backswing, no reaching. From there, you use your torso rotation to naturally shallow the club while gently applying counter tension to resist the fall, avoiding the urge to spear the ball.
Perfect summary.
And finally, you apply lead wrist flexion to lock the face square, allowing you to just turn and burn through impact. So if you enjoyed today's deep dive, please subscribe to our channel and share it with fellow golfers, coaches, and PGA professionals.
And hey, if there's a topic you would like us to research, analyze, and discuss in a future deep dive, feel free to send us an email or connect with us through LinkedIn.
Whether your interest is golf biomechanics, kinematics, ground reaction forces, swing mechanics, putting, coaching, club fitting technology, or sports science, we really would love to hear from you.
Yeah, our team will review your submission, conduct extensive research, analyze the available evidence, and we may even create a dedicated deep dive article, video, or testing project based entirely on your topic.
Thank you for being part of the eCoach 360 community.
To leave you with a final thought to mull over, I want to offer a complete paradigm shift regarding how you view your own mechanics. Stop obsessing over what your swing looks like at the exact moment of impact.
Oh, that's a big shift.
It is. The physics tell us that if your pelvis is still closed and your hands are pushed out when the club is only halfway down, the swing is already over. The crash has already happened. So the next time you film your swing, put the brakes on halfway down, ask yourself, can you fix your geometry before the club ever gets near the golf ball?
If you can fix your geometry halfway down, that effortless feeling of hitting the sweet spot just becomes the natural, unavoidable result of physics. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Take these insights straight to the practice tee, and we will see you next time.